Fluffy, moist, and packed with tropical flavor, this naked coconut hummingbird cake is a real showstopper. Ripe bananas, juicy pineapple, crunchy pecans, and shredded coconut all come together in this rich, spiced batter. Baked to golden perfection, then lightly frosted with a honey-sweetened cream cheese frosting for that perfect naked cake look. Topped with dried pineapple and edible flowers, it's as stunning as it is delicious. Hi, I'm Stone from the Mountaintop Kitchen. Let's bake. Okay, so let's get started. First, you're going to want to set your ovens to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and prepare your cake tins. We're going to be using two 8-inch tins, and I simply cut a piece of parchment paper to fit into the bottom. And we will spray that to get it ready for our cake dough. And just get the sides nicely sprayed. We're going to start by making our cake dough, our cake batter, I should say. Before we get started, all of the measurements will be in the description box below if you're watching YouTube, or will be in my Substack newsletter, or right here on the screen. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with 3 eggs. I'm using 4 because of my altitude. And usually in cakes, when I want to increase the liquid, I add an extra egg. Okay, so we're going to start with 4 eggs. Let's break those up. And since we're making a coconut hummingbird cake, by the way, it is my birthday, so I'm making this cake for my birthday. So let's break up these eggs a little bit. Let's add in our melted coconut oil. If you don't have, this is cold pressed coconut oil, so it retains a lot of the coconut flavor. If you don't have coconut oil, you can do a 1-for-1 substitution with any neutral oil. So we're going to dump that in to our eggs. And we also have some mashed up bananas. So let's go ahead and get this in. 2 mashed up bananas, because our cake is going to have a coconut flavor, a banana flavor, a little bit of cinnamon, some pineapple, and the coconut. Well, I said coconut. All right, so we're just gonna kind of mix this up really well. You don't really need a mixer or a hand mixer or a stand mixer for this. You can do it all by hand, but you can use a mixer if you'd like to. But today, we're just gonna do everything by hand. Okay, so let's set that aside. Okay, so let's get together our dry ingredients. For our dry ingredients, we're gonna sift together some all-purpose flour, some salt and baking powder, some cinnamon, and a little bit of cardamom. You can leave that out if you want to. And let's just sift that into our bowl. Our sugar in. Let's go ahead and sift this. It looks a little lumpy. So let's sift our sugar. I'm going to form a well in the middle of my dry ingredients, our wet ingredients into the little well that we made in our dry. Okay. And just get that all mixed really well together. Really helps to have a big bowl when you're doing this. This nice bowl here is about the right size. Okay, just over to my spatula. Get rid of some of this flour on the sides. Okay, and get the flour off the bottom. Okay, we've nicely added in our wet ingredients to our dry ingredients. Now let's add in our mix-ins. We have a can of crushed pineapple. Add that in, drained. We have about 80 grams of chopped pecans, and we have about 40 grams or 1/4 cup of shredded coconut. That all goes in. And just fold it in. Remember, we don't want to overmix the gluten, so we're just going to fold it in, go around and through the batter. Okay, let's get this batter into the tins. To make 2 sponges, I'm going to have to put about 746 grams into each tin. So I have my cake tin, my 8-inch cake tin, one of them, on the scale. I'm going to zero it out, and I'm going to put in 746 grams in each. That's 1, and the rest of the batter. All right, so we have our tins ready. Let's just kind of spread out the batter in the tin. Get it nice and even. Okay, give it a few taps, get it all out. Spread the batter to even it out in the second tin. Let's get these into the oven, shall we? Okay, our cakes are out of the oven. We're going to let them cool for about 10 minutes. They're looking good and smelling awesome. And I'd like to take a moment to please ask you to like, comment, share, or subscribe to the channel. It really helps others to find our content and helps to grow the channel too. And it's totally free. Another reminder is all of the recipes that I publish are all for regular baking at sea level to 3,500 feet. If you're baking at a higher altitude, my recipes have guidance for any changes that you need to make. I'm baking at over 7,000 feet, so especially when I'm making cakes, I do need to make some adjustments.
Okay, it's time to start working with this great smelling pineapple that we had sitting over here. First, we're going to cut the top off, and then we're going to remove all of the outer parts of the pineapple. We really don't want to eat that in our jam or with our dehydrated flours. Then cut about 4 or 5 as thin as you can slices, because we're going to dehydrate these really thin slices to make these beautiful pineapple flowers on top of our cake. So once you get those 4 or 5 thin slices, you're just going to put them on a rack on a tray as best you can. Just line them up there, and we're going to pop these into the oven at about 90 degrees C or 195 degrees Fahrenheit for about 2 hours, quite a bit of time. Once they come out, they're still going to be not completely dehydrated. Stick them into a cupcake tin and pop them back in for an additional 30 minutes or so. Okay, now let's move on to start preparing our jam. With the rest of your pineapple, it should be about 3/4 of the pineapple. We're just going to slice it up at first, and then cut it into a bunch of chunks. It's about medium-sized chunks. We're going to be cooking this, so you don't have to be really picky about how you're going to cut it. So once we get all of that cut up, then we're going to pop that into our saucepan, get it all in there, scoop it all up, get it into the saucepan, and we still have some stuff to add in because it's not just the pineapple. So once we get it in there, we're going to go ahead and squeeze 1/2 of a lemon into our chopped up pineapple, and about 250 grams of water and our 420 grams of granulated sugar. We're going to simmer that on a medium-low heat for about an hour, or maybe a little bit longer. Keep an eye on it. You want it to look this golden brown that you're seeing right here. We want it to be a really nice, rich golden brown. Put that into a sieve and kind of press it a little bit to get all that wonderful syrup out of there, because we're going to use that syrup in our frosting. Okay, so let's pop that cooked pineapple into a food processor. Just get it all in there. And once it's in, we're going to add in about, almost half of our pineapple syrup that we put together. We're going to reserve the rest of it. We may not have to use all of it, but we'll reserve some of it for our frosting later. So you want to just kind of blitz that, but not very much, because you don't want it to lose that beautiful color. If you blitz it too much, it might turn a little pale. So it's looking really good. So just blitz it until you get a nice jam consistency. And we're going to move on to the coconut. Just spread some coconut out into a baking tray. Pop it into the oven at about 160 C or 325 F for about 10 minutes. But you're going to want to keep an eye on it because you don't want the coconut to burn, and kind of spread it around a little bit and mix it up about halfway through. We're going to be putting this around the outside of the bottom of the cake.
Okay, so we're ready to start with our cream cheese icing. We're going to start by beating some butter until it's lighter in color, almost white, nice and fluffy. We're going to beat it for about 4 minutes on a medium-high speed. Okay, our butter is looking much lighter in color and very fluffy looking. It's almost white actually, so that's just how we want it. So now let's put in our cream cheese. Always remember to use room temperature butter and room temperature cream cheese. If you don't use room temperature cream cheese, when you put it in and mix it in with the butter and then add in your powdered sugar, end up with your frosting, you're going to have little lumps of butter, and we don't want that. Okay, let's beat this for a couple minutes. Okay, now very slowly we're going to add in our powdered sugar, and we're going to use a tea towel to cover our mixer so the sugar doesn't go flying absolutely everywhere. If you saw my last video, you know what I mean. Now, you can either add vanilla or whatever flavoring you like, some honey possibly, but since we actually are using our own pineapple, and we made our own pineapple jam and syrup, we're going to use pineapple syrup for flavoring. So I'm just going to put that in now. I have, about maybe 30 grams here. Going to give it a scrape down. Our cream cheese icing is ready. Now it is a little soft, so we're going to pop it in the fridge before we frost our cake, so it'll firm up just a little bit. So let's pop this in the fridge. We'll be right back. Okay, the cakes are out of the oven, they've cooled down, and it's time to frost and decorate. So we're going to start by putting a little bit of icing right here on the cake board, just to hold the cake down for us a little bit. Okay, we'll spread that out a little bit. Okay, and we'll put the first cake right down on that. Make sure it's centered on the cake board. And now we're going to go ahead and put some frosting in the middle. And then I'm going to pipe what's called a dam around the edge of the cake. It's okay if we go over because this is going to be a naked cake. We're going to have a little bit of the icing on the outside as well. And now we're going to put our homemade pineapple jam in the middle. Let's just get this in. get some more. It's kind of thick. And a little bit more. We don't want to waste any of this. This is really good stuff. And we're going to just spread it around. Let's get the last little bit here. And we just have a little bit more. Okay. And I'm just going to spread that around here in the middle. Just try to get over to the edges of the dam that we just put in. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. Let's put on our next layer. Make sure it's centered. Put on our frosting on the top. Just put a big dollop there. And let's work it around. Get a little bit more. Now you can just plop this on. You don't need a piping bag. I just find it a little bit easier. Now you can also use one of these cake scrapers and just go on around. And that is about it. So we've got our icing on top. And I have a little bit of toasted coconut that I'm going to put around the bottom edge. I'm just going to put that on with my hand. There we go. And we have some of the jam that we're going to dollop in little strategic places on top here. Let's just do that. Not a whole lot, just a little bit here and there. Okay. And then I have some of these dehydrated pineapple flowers that I made. So we're going to just put those on top as well. Just like that. Maybe a little more jam. Our hummingbird, our coconut hummingbird cake, filled with homemade pineapple jam. Isn't that lovely? We're going to cut into it in a minute. And we are ready to cut this cake and try it out. But look how beautiful it is. This is just absolutely beautiful cake. We're going to cut this baby open right now. So let's try it. Let's cut it right through here. How about that? All the way down. Okay. Let's get this piece out. The first piece is always the hardest to get out. That's how it always works. But look at that. You can see the frosting in there, the frosting on top, and also see the frosting between the layers, and also that homemade pineapple jam. That looks absolutely delicious. But let's try it out. We have to see how it tastes. Coconut Hummingbird Cake. Let's get a piece that has some of this beautiful jam in it. Cream cheese frosting. There we go. The jam is not overpowering. It's very sweet, but it doesn't really come through because it balances nicely with the cake. The cream cheese is awesome. You get a little bit of coconut over here on the bottom edge. A little dollop of jam on the top. The nuts, the pecans inside the batter, the banana, and the pineapple chunks that are in there. This is just a lovely cake. Absolutely lovely. I'm going to keep on eating this. Don't forget to subscribe. Just hit that button down there. And also, if you like this recipe, let's take a look in there. If you like this recipe, then check out this one. You might like it too. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us today. Bye.